vote. The Public Safety Committee is now called to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Bosley.
Present.
Alderman French.
Present.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Present.
Alderman Cone. Alderman Carter.
Present.
Alderman Coulter.
Here.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Present.
Alderwoman Green. Chairman Kennedy.
Here.
7 present, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Madam Clerk, we have 2 items on the agenda, Resolution 209 and Board Bill 196. We'll entertain a motion to put Resolution 209 before us.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we place.
Previous row.
That we place.
Can't do previous row.
Been moved and seconded that we place Resolution 209 as amended in front of us. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Bosley.
Aye.
Alderman French. Alderman Vaccaro.
Aye.
Alderman French.
Alderman French.
Just put it.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Aye.
Alderman Cone. Alderman Carter.
Aye.
Alderman Coulter.
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Green. Chairman Kennedy.
Aye.
7 aye votes.
Thank you. By your vote, we place the resolution before us. We will continue with 209. We had to make some corrections on 209 from our last meeting. I've informed us what those concerns were. You should have before you a new exhibit, amendment number 1 to 209, that makes those corrections. There's no, yes?
I don't think the exhibit was correct.
Where's it at?
The exhibit, the ones that are out here were not correct.
They are. There's an exhibit, there's a separate one.
Thank you.
That expends of 949,180. Is the amount.
This one says 950.
Yeah, this is, I think they haven't passed.
That's the
it.
existing.
Oh, they have-
That's the
That's just the
existing.
one that was the,
There you go.
I thought that was already done.
Sorry about that.
No, no problem. That's the one we're correcting. Would you pass one down to all?
Yeah, not yet. We're about to.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Pardon me, we have the correct one before us. The corrected one. If there's no questions, we can entertain a motion to adopt amendment number 1.
So moved.
A second.
Been moved and seconded that we adopt amendment number 1 to resolution 209 as amended. The request for previous roll, any opposition to previous roll? Seeing none, by your vote, we just adopted resolution 209 as amended. We'll now take up, you ready? Benson made the motion, Carter seconded, and request for previous. We should have it.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Good
We
afternoon.
have before us now Board Bill 196.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Board Bill 196, I sent you the summary,
And everyone got copies.
and everyone did get copied. Okay, I wasn't sure if that had happened or not, but, so Board Bill 196 is a bill about gun safety, and it does 3 things. First of all, it requires guns left in cars. So, let me back up and say 99.9% of gun owners are responsible people, and they want to have good gun safety, but one of the things that we know is that many guns are stolen out of cars. And it's, if you're going for a walk in the park, or you're going into Schnucks, or wherever you're going, if you either don't want to take your gun, or if they don't allow you to bring your gun in, then you'll probably leave your gun in the car. If you leave your gun in the car, what do you do with it? Glove box, under the seat, under the floor mat, wherever it is that you stick it. So then what happens? Your car window gets broken out, people rummage through to steal guns, many stolen guns every year out of cars in the city of St. Louis and really across the country. And it's just one of the ways that stolen guns get on the street and then, of course, used, more than likely used in criminal activity. So what this bill requires is that if you have a gun in your car and you're leaving your car's not occupied, that then you're required to put your gun in a lockbox, a gun-safe container that's permanently affixed to the car. Many of those products on the market today, many people already have them, but this would require you, when you leave your gun in an unattended car, for your gun to be locked in the lockbox. That's the first thing that it does. The second thing it does is, when police say pull over a car for some reason, and there are guns in the car, and then people, the police are like, whose gun is this? Everybody goes like that, not mine, not mine, not mine. So what the police would like to say is, well, if no one is willing to fess up to owning the gun that's in the car, then that gun is presumed, they call it a rebuttable presumption, but it's presumed to belong to the driver of the car. And then the third thing that this bill does is, if you're not in your car, so the car is unattended, then, if you're not in the car
Okay.
and you leave your gun and it's not in a lockbox, then it's assumed to belong to the owner of the car. So that is really the three things that this bill does, very simply. I was planning to have former Chief Isom here today, but because of the crazy schedule here at the Board of Aldermen, and the meeting time had to be changed, he could not make it today. But I thought it was still appropriate to go ahead and talk about this bill.
Pardon me.
It's okay, I'm done. I'm finished. So that's the three things that this bill does.
Okay. Any questions from members of the committee? Alderman Carter?
Thank you. Do you have any statistics on which, how many guns are stolen out of cars a year, every other year? Because the honest truth,
We don't really know truthfully, because, I should say, there's a fourth thing. This requires you to report your gun stolen. We don't really know, because a lot of times people don't report their guns stolen. I mean, the police have a number last year of 700 and some, but, many people do not report if their gun is stolen out of the car. And when they recover a gun, they don't know where the person got it, or whatever. So it just isn't really possible to track these things, but we do know that a lot of the car break-ins are in search of a gun in the car. And so this is just one of those things that would reduce. I think there's no doubt that if you had to lock your gun in a locked box that's permanently affixed to the car, it would be a lot harder to steal that gun out of your car if it could happen at all. So why not take that precaution?
right. So would it be a way, so I guess how would you track if someone don't report that their gun is stolen after they recover the lost or stolen gun? Is that the only way?
Well, no, you actually can't tell it then either, because we don't have gun registration in Missouri, so, there's no way to know that, unless it's, you fess up to it later, or, but what this is doing is say, please, tell us if your gun is stolen. Give us the serial number of your gun. Give us the description of your gun if your gun is stolen. So that when we look for it or find it, we can have some idea where it came from.
Right.
I mean, now there's, bag-o guns, or, their guns are everywhere. You have no idea where the gun, these are small measures that I think will prevent some guns from being on the street.
Right. So case in point, my car is parked out here now. I carry a gun everywhere that I go. I usually carry my gun in here. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but today the gun that I chose to bring out is a larger gun, so I didn't want to bring it in here because I couldn't fit it nowhere. So the gun is in my car, and this is true story. It's in there now.
Mm-hmm.
So someone busts out my window,
And they
take
get
my
your gun.
gun.
Mm-hmm.
I never ever say anything. I never ever report this.
Well, this would require you to report it.
Right, but how? So if I don't say anything, then I won't get, then nothing happens? I don't say
Probably,
anything about the
probably
gun being
nothing
stolen.
happens, but most gun owners, I think, don't bring their guns into places where they're prohibited. Most of the
Most.
time.
Yeah.
Maybe not all, certainly not all gun owners. This is not a way to like, gotcha. That's not
Okay.
what this is about. This is a way to try to prevent some guns from getting on the street.
Okay, now.
So under this bill, if this was an ordinance, your gun that's in your car would need to be in a lockbox permanently affixed to your car.
Okay. All right. So, what? So on the state level, won't they? What if they? So what if someone they sees that your legislation passes, and so a Republican on the state level, he's like, you know what? I hate that bill. So they file something that is the complete opposite, saying, that only in St. Louis City you don't have to have, everything that's in this bill. What happens then? Is there?
All of this gun legislation, 20 years ago, there was no such thing as conceal and carry. And I'll try to make this brief, but there was no such thing as conceal and carry. The only people who carried guns were either law enforcement, criminals, and you could get a permit to carry a gun legally. Let's say if you went to the sheriff and you owned a grocery store and you had to take your cash to the bank. I mean, that's back in the olden days, That's how you got a permit to carry a gun. But about 18 or 19 years ago, the citizens of the state of Missouri voted whether or not we should have conceal and carry. And 52% said no, we should not have conceal and carry. So for a short while, we still didn't have conceal and carry by everyone. Then, a couple of years later, the legislature thought, well, we know better than the voters, so we're going to still say, yes, we're going to have conceal and carry. And that's what we have today. And effective 25 days ago, or 26 days ago, the state of Missouri became the first state in the country to have what is called permit-less carry. In other words, going from permit carry, last year you had to have a permit to carry a gun concealed. And this year, starting 26 days ago, you don't need a permit to carry a gun, you don't need a background check, you don't need any training. So we've gone from permit carry to permit-less carry. I was sort of doing this for Alderman Carter's historical event, but he had to go. So I won't bore you with the rest of that sort of history, but there are many, many, many more guns on our streets today than there were 25 years ago. And many of them are stolen out of cars because good folks who are law-abiding gun owners do not take their guns usually into places where they're prohibited. So they leave them in the car, and this will just require them to have a lockbox in the car, permanently affixed to the car.
Some of our members went back over to the Ways and Means Committee meeting.
I got it.
They started at 9 o'clock.
I know.
So, we'll continue with questioning. Alderman Spencer, do you have any questions?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, I didn't hear it. Have you spoken to Chief Dotson, or has Chief Dotson weighed in on this?
He's in support of this bill.
My first concern would be that.
Most law enforcement is, because
Sure.
their job is hard and they don't want any more guns stolen out of cars,
I think my first concern would be that this requirement that a gun be affixed permanently to the car may discourage victims of stolen guns from reporting them. If you
Explain
for
that.
example, if you have a car, if Alderman Carter, as he explains, has a gun floating around his
in his car.
vehicle, somebody goes out there and steals it, and then he is forced to, then he's facing a predicament. Which law do I break? Do I fail to report it, or do I report it, in which case I'd have to admit that I don't have a gun lockbox in my car that would have affixed it to the vehicle? So now I have one of two law, which one do I break? So I wonder if there's a way that we could maybe grant immunity for a first-time offense. In the event that a gun is
Which would you grant the immunity for? Reporting it or not having a lockbox?
not having the lockbox for a first-time offense in the event that you are reporting a stolen gun. So therefore, we wouldn't be discouraging the reporting of the stolen gun. We would be then encouraging it, also noting, having an educational moment with the victim to say, look, we're grateful that you reported this. Now we have it on the record. By the way, you've broken this law. You get
By the way, you need to have a lockbox.
and you need to have a lockbox.
That'd be fine. I mean, that's in the that would be in the
In the
penalty section of this ordinance that, I think what you're saying, correct me if I'm misunderstanding, is that basically you get,
A free pass.
yeah, and so there'd be some kind of a summons written, but there would not be any penalty associated with it. That way you would know if it was the second time.
Yeah, and that way we would, if somebody got a gun stolen,
Yeah.
they wouldn't
I get
have
that.
to weigh the options, and I think in that case, in Carter's case, he would be incentivized to just not say a word, and move on, rather than suffer the penalty of not having the gun be in a lockbox. And we would rather have that stolen gun be reported, and kind of give him a pass in that event.
But we'd really rather he put it in the lockbox.
Well, absolutely.
That's what we
but
really
I
wanted
think
to
in
do.
that case he just wouldn't say anything. He wouldn't report the gun because for fear of that $500 fee for not having had it in a lockbox.
Well, and there wouldn't necessarily even have to be any fee or any punishment, because it's not a mandatory, it's a fine of not more than $500. If you look at section 3, penalty for violation shall be punishable upon conviction by a fine of no more than $500. So.
Sure, I'm just thinking in
Could
terms
be
of
$5, could be $0, you could just get a warning that says, hey, get a lockbox for your gun if you're gonna leave your gun in your car so that it doesn't get stolen again, for your
Right.
next gun, I guess,
Yeah.
at that point it would say.
Well, I'm trying to think of how this would be enforced. I think this is pertaining to stopped vehicles or vehicles in motion. And
Well,
in which case,
It's unoccupied vehicles is the gun lockbox.
so the
You're
only way
out of the car,
yeah.
you're in here, yeah.
So the only way, officers are not searching unoccupied vehicles. I think that the way this would be triggered is if a vehicle was broken into or there was an issue, and then, we would want to make sure that we are
Yeah.
encouraging the reporting of the
Yeah.
stolen gun
Uh-huh.
and not discouraging that because of this. Even if we're not, enforcing the fine at $500, I think that victims may be concerned about that enough to fail to report their stolen gun. It's just the way I would, I'm playing out how this.
Yeah, okay,
I
so-
think this is a great bill, and I think it's a great idea, and it's one I support. I think we wouldn't want to disincentivize the reporting of a stolen gun.
So here's what I'm thinking, and tell me if this reflects what you're thinking. I'm just writing, there shall be, under section 3, it would say something like, there shall be no financial or no penalty for the first violation of this ordinance. Subsequent violations.
Sure.
Shall be blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I think that would be, I think that would achieve the goal, absolutely. And my second concern is not really a concern, but, and I don't know that this would necessarily need to be handled within the bill, but other cities do offer these, lock boxes either for free or at cost through the police department, which is kind of why I was asking if Chief Dodson had weighed in. They're fairly inexpensive when purchased at cost. I think if it's something that we are going to require as a city, it's something we should make available readily and at a low cost, if possible, to encourage people to do that.
I don't think that's a bad idea. we require a lot of things, though, that we don't give people for free.
Sure.
You know? It's
I-
kind of
I
like
said,
a club or a, I mean, it's not like a club, but you know what I mean?
It's not required, but yeah.
It's a low yeah, that, you're right,
Yeah.
a club is not required, but it would be
Well,
a
and-
way of, making, gun boxes, gun safes for cars available at a low cost or free or whatever.
Yeah, this is why, I mean, I think, I kinda likened it to the club in my own mind, thinking that the police department offers that. There are centers, Five Star Senior Center and other gathering spots that offer these things at low cost.
And they sort of should come with the gun, I think, but when you buy the
Sure.
gun.
I mean, I think they cost like less than $2 to produce. I was just looking at the cost, like the ad cost of
The
these
box?
things. I mean, I don't know, a couple municipalities were quoting that, I
Oh,
don't.
I see, so in another municipality,
Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
that may be.
So, if Chief
Well, I think
Dotson,
that is a good idea. I don't know that that should be required by the ordinance, but I think it's a good idea if we are able to pass this ordinance that, you know, there would be, free or close to free or whatever you wanna call it, gun boxes available through the police department. That would be fine.
yeah, I just, if.
I mean, it is sort of what goes along with the privilege of owning a gun, in my mind, but I get that, you know, I get that, there are lots, you know, we're a country that has, one gun for every person in the country.
Mhm.
So there's 20 million guns in this country. So we certainly have lots of guns, and, you know, if we were able, to get them locked up in a car when you leave your gun in the car, I think there'd be fewer of them on the street. You know, in Forest Park, I just have that, you know, personal experience. When there's a big event in Forest Park, it's not uncommon for 30 cars to be broken into by, you know, just a couple of, just like all right next to each other, like zoom,
Yeah.
rummage, you know, so, you know.
Well, so I
So I
guess
think that
the
would- that's
effective,
fine.
yeah, the effectiveness really will come in when criminals are aware that this is on the books and that
Right.
people are required to lock their boxes, and it will sort of discourage car break-ins.
Right, that's
And
right.
so from that perspective, it would be helpful if we could allocate some funding to signage as visitors to our city are coming in, you know, to go to games, or if there was some kind of campaign that somebody would put forward and say, hey, listen, there's a billboard on Highway 55 or
Yeah.
70 coming in. It's illegal to leave your firearm unattended in an unoccupied vehicle.
Right.
Go to the police station and get one for free, or get one for $5 or whatever it
Yeah.
costs.
And
But I don't
ideally, the
know-
county would do this too.
Sure.
So that we weren't, you
Have a
know,
regional-
but, you know, we actually would have a regional approach to something like this, but we know how that goes, so, I mean, I think that's possible. If we do it, I don't think that's impossible, but for me, it wouldn't be, dependent on that, 'cause
Sure.
you know.
I think that it's just an idea to make it as effective as possible, to have some funding allocated to getting the word out and making sure visitors to our city know that this is a law,
requirement.
because
Yeah.
it's not, you know, common.
Well, it's not terribly uncommon, but it would be something new. People would not know about it unless they happen to hear about it on the news or read about it in the paper or something like that. Yeah, I agree. So this bill doesn't allocate funding, and we're not really in the right place to do that, but I don't think that's a bad idea. I mean, you probably know that the police department has, at least they used to have, I don't know if they still have, but, you know, they have, like child safety locks for guns, which are available at very low cost. This is something along that same line, only it's a little bigger and a little more costly, so.
Alderwoman Green? Any
Just
questions?
a couple of quick questions. Did we figure out what the cost of a box is? I know that you.
They're all
looked
over
at
the place. I
Okay.
mean, if you, they're very, you can get one for $20, you can get one for $100. They're,
Okay.
you know, they're all over the place.
Okay, and then my other question is, section 3A, where it says this is intended to apply to all motor vehicles located within the city of St. Louis.
Give it, wait, help me find where you are
Sorry,
again.
page 3.
Page 3, top of the page?
Yes. Are there any issues with if a car is, what I'm trying to think of is like enforcement upon county residents that come into the city? Are there?
If you leave your car parked in the city, it applies to you.
Okay. Doesn't matter where the car's registered, doesn't matter
If the
where
car,
your address is.
it's intended to apply all motor
Okay.
vehicles located
Okay,
within the city of St. Louis.
okay. Okay, that makes sense. I think those are my only questions. I wanna echo, I like Alderwoman Spencer's addition. I think in the language, one thing I wanted to add though, that I think we need to clarify is that the immunity would be for the not having the lockbox part, not for the not reporting part.
Mhm.
I would
So,
agree, and just
okay.
make sure that that
Alright.
is spelled out.
Okay, all right, there shall be no penalty for violation, for the first violation of, not this ordinance, but rather of section something, it would be what section? Manner of reporting,
I think it would
requirement,
be-
findings. It would be 3, it would be, let's see, section 3.
Section 3.
It's,
The penalty.
section 1, paragraph 3, I think is the way you would say that.
Okay. I think those are my only comments. Thank you.
Right to work out the language. We do have, 2 individuals who wish to testify on the bill.
Sure.
So, you can come up. Actually, the first. You can go first.
Oh, you're written down first.
Actually, the chair makes that determination. Okay, if you would, you take the seat. First we have speaking for the bill is Jeffrey Hill.
I'm not for the bill, I just put that on the wrong side.
Oh, you put it on the wrong side?
Yeah,
Are you for the bill? Didn't, okay. Both
didn't
of them.
understand the language on that.
Okay.
They need me now?
And speaking against the bill is Jeffrey Hill. Would you please identify yourself with your name and address?
My name is Jeffrey Hill Jr. I live in 2638 Cherokee. And I'm not really for the bill. I know that there's a lot of police practices that can become oppressive. I feel like this can be one of those things that can be utilized against the people rather than for the people. In your legislation, you had wrote a permanent lockbox to the car. So you had mentioned to her that there's like some boxes ranging from $20 to $100. When we're talking about something that's permanently fixed to the car, this is something that's going to be pretty expensive. It's not a cheap thing. So on one level, it's already there's a certain demographic of the city that this is just not accessible to because this is going to be a expensive thing. It also has to be in the car, not seen. So it's not like you can just simply go screw the box onto your door. It's going to have to be in the trunk or under the car, where it might mess with the makeup of the vehicle. So I feel like that can also add to the expense because it's not just simply a box that you can just buy or whatever. It has to be permanently fixed. And I was listening to your idea about maybe having it be like the first offense waived, and I'm kind of with that, but I guess at the end of the day, I don't feel like this is going to be a precaution that overall makes the criminal not want to do that. As a matter of fact, if they are already aware that there's a permanent fixture in these cars, or let's say that there's a criminal who's preying around Ballpark Village because they know that it's illegal to take your firearm into the ballpark, so they can just walk around and open up doors, because there's a lot of home invasions that happen as well where the doors are locked and there's dogs and all types of stuff, but it doesn't necessarily keep someone from getting into it, or it doesn't deter someone from breaking into it. So I feel like it's gonna, if the overall goal is to stop guns from getting onto the streets, I think you're gonna have to get to the root of how these guns are getting out there, which is gonna be a bigger issue than something that can be tackled at this table rather than handling the symptoms of some stuff. And my other question, I was under the influence that bill number 195 would be discussed. Is that
It's
going
not-
to be?
it's not this coming, it's
Yeah,
coming.
we're not hearing that
So-
today.
We can take questions from members of the committee. That's
So,
okay.
so you were saying that a majority of the guns that are illegally on the street, that this bill wouldn't do anything to curb that?
No, because like she said, in this state, which we're one of the only few states, maybe if not the only one, that doesn't require you to register your firearms, a lot of these guns can be obtained at gun shows and all types of, or just hand to hand on the street without any type of identification. So I feel like that's how the majority of the guns are getting on the streets rather than people breaking into cars. You can just literally go buy a gun and have a cash transaction, and you don't have to let anyone know.
Do you think that it would help if we, instead of just limiting this to cars, that we should add this to homes too?
No, I don't feel like that, because first of all, I think you're gonna run into some contradictions, because you're gonna be violating the state law at that point. Because, well, yeah, you're violating it now, which is also, you're gonna run into an issue eventually. So, I guess I'm trying to find out what is the real angle for this piece of legislation, because as you just expressed, it's already in violation to the Missouri State Constitution. So, if you know it's gonna be shut down, I feel like there's another angle.
You had something else?
I was just gonna say, I mean, I'm not convinced that this is in violation, just requiring someone to keep their gun in a locked, box when they leave it in the car. I'm not persuaded that that's necessarily a violation of the Missouri Constitution.
It's in violation because if I'm a CCW holder in Missouri, I have what's called like peaceable journey. Let's say even if I'm going through strict states like Illinois, where they already have ordinances like on Bill 95 that requires like certain magazine capacities and all of that. When I'm driving through Illinois, I'm allowed to have a gun on my lap, loaded up, one in the chamber, and that's something because in my home state, which is Missouri, I'm allowed to carry it
Right.
however I want to. So let's say I'm someone who lives in St. Charles where this ordinance wouldn't necessarily be in effect, and I'm coming to a ballpark game and my car gets broken into, and let's say that first time offense you don't have to pay, that's not applied at the time. You're violating that person's right because the state says that they are allowed to have that gun in their car without a lockbox, but yet when they come to a Cardinals game, you're saying that they can't. And when they run into that, when you say that they're committing a crime and they're then detained and arrested, then you're therefore violating the state constitution because the state says that they don't have to have a lockbox.
Okay. I think that also, I think that this is good. I looked at filing something similar when I was a state representative, but the way that the state is made up, I knew it wouldn't pass, so I knew it would be a waste of my time. But as a person who knows that a majority of our guns that are on the street, they aren't coming from cars parked downtown. They are coming from other sources, and I think that people don't break into cars looking for guns. They break into cars looking for laptops, wallets, purses, things of that sort. I'm not saying that like I know from me breaking in cars, but from the folks that I know that live in my ward, that I know that breaking into cars, they're not looking for guns. They come into your house when they're looking for guns, and so I'm not sure what impact that this would have, but I believe that this may be a step in the right direction, just in terms of if we're trying to make sure that gun owners are whether we're trying to hold them accountable and make sure that we are trying to keep as many guns off the street as possible illegally. But this, I don't think, me personally, without seeing any statistics, I don't think that this will make a major impact in terms of people getting guns on the street. So that's it. I gotta go vote.
Yes, okay. Were there any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comment. The next up, Erica Hallman. Also speaking against the bill.
Just tell us who you are.
I'm Erica Hallman. Do you need an address?
Yeah.
744 Walton Avenue. I am concerned in passing this bill when there is not an estimated cost on what this would be, especially for since it's specifically requiring something permanently affixed to the car. I believe there are gun box that I don't think having something permanently affixed to the car in terms of the box is gonna make the lock any more powerful than the lock that would be on a gun box that is not attached to the car. The only difference I assume would be that you're assuming that the box could go with you. Maybe you think the break-in, that way they could break the lock at another time. I'm not sure what the logic is there. But the cost of a gun box, again, it was somebody mentioned, I think perhaps Kara, that most of the time when you are purchasing a gun, it will come with a lockbox on it, and I think that might be a much more reasonable requirement than requiring someone to get something permanently affixed to their vehicle. Does that mean that I just can take the gun box that I have and screw it into the door of my car? I don't know what exactly that means, and it doesn't seem defined well, and without any cost, it seems, for the installation or for it's not, what kind of locker are we even talking about? Because again, to the point that Jeff made about cars getting broken into, if it's just, depending on what type of lock we're talking about, most gun box locks, most locks that are gonna be in a car, even some cars that have a glove box that does have a lock on it, would that be sufficient? Does it
No.
have to be one with a key? Does it have to be one that has an external lock? All of which are issues that haven't been addressed, and the costs that are associated with those things. What that does effectively is it says the people with lots of means can constitutionally carry their guns under both the law and be fine in the city of St. Louis. But people that live in the city of St. Louis that don't necessarily have the means to get a special box put into, especially if they don't own a car and they're going with a friend somewhere, but they would like to have their gun whenever they leave the baseball game, whenever they leave the city courthouse. It puts an undue burden, I believe, on a lot of people, saying that anybody from St. Charles, anybody from St. Louis County, anywhere from these surrounding areas are gonna have to get a lockbox installed if they ever wanna come to the city of St. Louis and go to a baseball game, go to something in Chaffetz Arena, go to any of the things that we depend on people to come to the city of St. Louis for, and that without that generates a lot of money for the city, and quite frankly will be deterring people from coming here, because there are a lot of people from St. Charles, there are a lot of people from Jefferson County, a lot of people from St. Louis County that will not want to come here at all if they are required to get a lockbox just for the duration of time that they are parked in the city. What that means is that they're gonna violate those laws most of the time, because they see it especially since it is in contradiction to the Missouri state law. And I think as a result, it's gonna render itself pretty ineffective really quickly, and that those other issues need to be addressed.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Are there any questions from members of the committee? What was the point you did raise?
Is it section 2 or is it
Where-
section
where-
3?
where- in your opinion, this violates state law?
Yes.
You also mentioned that.
Wait.
In what manner?
So within in the Missouri Constitution, as you know, like they recently passed the permitless carry. Actually, also LIDA ascertained that we were the first state to do permitless carry. That's absolutely untrue. We were the 12th.
From permit to permitless.
Okay, well, there are
There are
13 states in total at this time. Several other states have that on the books to go to permitless carry. And that, with those laws being in place and the Missouri Constitution saying that you do have the right to a peaceable journey, in fact, without a CCW, you're supposed to be allowed to carry a gun in your car loaded with the magazine in, even with one in the head. There are no restrictions on any of those things. So then to say that exclusively in the city of St. Louis that you must have a permanently affixed gun box just in order, which is basically saying you've got to have that just to enter the city. If you are illegally, a legal gun owner. And I think, again, the issue is if we're trying to combat a criminal element, that we can't be targeting legal, people that are constitutionally protected in the state of Missouri. We can't be targeting legal gun owners because these are not the people that are going to get a permanently affixed box put in their car. The issues are going to come from other people. And as was mentioned about, most of these guns that are coming onto the street are not coming from, while certainly some people's cars get broken into and their guns get taken, that is not where the majority of these guns that are on the street or that are illegal guns are coming from. Illegal guns get traded back and forth between people in all kinds of ways. And that with the problems that we have with gun violence in this city and in this country, I don't believe that requiring people that are law-abiding citizens in the city of St. Louis to get a permanently affixed gun box in their car or even just to travel through it is going to solve any of those issues, and that it would be better served to look at the roots of these problems, both in this bill and one that we believed was going to be presented today, Bill 195, and as well as others, on spending money and time addressing those issues rather than these other matters.
I believe we have some other questions.
Mm-hmm.
Alderman Spencer, do you have a question?
Can I just say one
Sure,
thing?
response.
Just a brief response. So if you are from out of town and you're coming through St. Louis, you don't have to have your gun in a lockbox unless you're leaving your car unattended.
Right.
So, you drive through,
So most
that's
of the
fine.
people that are going to be coming to St. Louis from outside of St. Louis are going to be coming here for an event. Most of those events are going to take place at places that do not allow you to bring your gun inside. Be that inside Ballpark Village, you cannot have one.
Right.
Be that Chaffetz Arena, be that here at City Hall. All of these places that are the gathering places that we depend
That's
on
true.
people
If you're
coming to the
stopping
city
here
for.
and going somewhere, yes.
They're going
Then
to
you
have to
would
leave it in
either
the
have
car.
to leave your gun at home or get a lockbox and lock it in your car when
Right.
you
Or
leave your car.
There's also not the possibility within the way this is written for a lockbox to be just not attached to the car. That you could have a lockbox, but, and I think that's much more reasonable request of people is because most guns do come with a lockbox, or you can get one for a lower cost. To get one that you then have to have a professional probably install for you, because I certainly am not going to try to install into my car with a drill or whatever and accidentally puncture something in my car. Not going to happen. What are those costs in addition is what I'm saying.
Were there any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Members of the committee?
Sorry.
I think I have a question for Alderwoman Krewson now. Are we gonna
Yeah, we'll come back.
come back
Just
to
make sure
her?
that we have
Okay.
any questions for the party. Do you have any questions, anything for the guests?
No, not for the
Okay,
guests.
okay.
Thank you.
And with that, we thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
On to any questions of the sponsor, Alderman Greenwald.
Yes. So a couple of questions this made me think of. With regard to enforcement, how do we know, other than somebody coming to us and saying that their gun was stolen, that they're not using a lockbox?
Usually the way you know is that people report when their car is broken into. When your window gets knocked out and your gun is stolen and your laptop that you left there and all this stuff, often there's a police report of that. That's how you know that. Now, if your car gets broken into and you decide that you don't want to report that, then we won't know.
Okay. And then I think the person who just testified, I'm sorry for Erica, raised a really good issue about tourists and how we inform people about the laws. So what happens when somebody drives up here from Arkansas and they're here staying for 3 or 4 days, family vacation, they don't know the law. The immunity the first time, might be good, but how are we going to inform people that this is, especially those who are not necessarily in the St. Louis region or even in the county and don't
Sure.
come in all the time? How do we let people know that this is this is the law now.
I mean, that would be a second part of this. We don't normally mandate in a
Right.
bill that, we're gonna advertise or put up billboards or, it's like any other law that we pass. How does someone know about that law as well? I mean, yeah, I think those are all good things. Those would be good operational decisions to make if we put this law on the books. I think, you do want people to be informed. If you are a gun owner, this isn't so rare. Then you would probably be interested in what are the laws in the state that you're going to or whatever. I think owning a gun is a privilege. I mean, I don't, that's my opinion about it. This is a privilege, and it comes with some responsibilities. I mean, like you gotta have car insurance, or you have to have, there are responsibilities that come with privileges of owning and carrying a gun. So that's just my opinion. I know that there are people that might not agree with me on that, but, easy access to guns is literally, causing many crimes, and often causing many crimes to go worse than they were intended. At least I believe that. I think I don't think, hardly anybody, if anybody, gets up in the morning and decides they're gonna go shoot somebody. I just don't think that's the case. But, when you are carrying, a gun often causes a crime that might not have been so bad to go worse.
I agree with that.
So this is a small thing, quite honestly. There has been a bill introduced, I think Representative Franks introduced it at the state level, very similar to this last week. I was happy to see that. I am not optimistic about his chances to get it passed at the state. I mean, I hope he is, but we know how the state legislature has gone on this subject. But I don't see this as radical at all. I mean, I see this as just a very small step to say to gun owners, hey, don't leave your gun in the car. Just, you don't want your gun stolen. You don't want your window broken. You don't want, you don't want the guns to be in the hands of somebody who shouldn't have it, because it's your gun, of course. So that's the way I see it. I think it's a small thing.
I guess I have one other question, and this might be something that Alderman Carter actually answers more, but if you can break into a car, how hard is it to then break into a lockbox?
Harder, and it takes more time.
Yeah.
Harder and takes more time. I mean, car windows are broken out like once every 5 seconds or something. If you have a couple people working together, you can cover a lot of cars in a short distance. And if you're fast, I mean, it's just another deterrent. It's kind of like saying, well, how long does it take to break into a house?
Right.
Well, let's see. If you don't have your door locked, it's really fast. If you have just the little lock on, it's a little slower. If you have the deadbolt on, it's a little slower. If you have the alarm on, you know what I mean? All these things are just impediments, and folks looking to steal guns, we're gonna go, in easier way perhaps. So.
Okay, thank you.
Were there any other questions of the sponsor?
Yes, I had a question.
Sure.
I just had a couple of comments. I recognize that stolen guns get on the streets a multitude of different ways, but this is I think this is one small step in the right direction. I'd like to ask the sponsor, if this does pass, if you, as the sponsor of this bill and or as mayor, whatever capacity you're representing the city of St. Louis, if you would commit to looking for some kind of funding to help
Absolutely.
with billboards and possibly
Right.
doing a free gun lock
Absolutely.
awareness, but also to provide free gun locks. I think that would be something that
I mean, I'm very,
Sure.
I think, as you know, very committed to having better gun safety. And, this would be a part of it. I think it's part of the operation. And I think there are other folks that feel similarly who want, you want this
Sure.
to be known.
And-
You don't want to pass the
Right.
bill and keep it a secret.
No, and there
So-
are municipalities whose police departments offer not only free gun locks, but also classes on installation, which
Yep.
could remove that barrier. I think that would be a step in the right direction. I'd like to introduce a friendly amendment, I believe, that does.
In a moment. I just want to make sure we get
Okay.
to any
Okay.
questions.
I think with the first-time offense immunity, I feel comfortable with it, given that what we can do is prevent that barrier from people reporting and also
I think that's fine.
present an educational moment.
This is not about trying to, like, gotcha.
Yeah.
This is about trying to have better gun safety and, not to have fewer guns on the street, so.
Yeah.
I have one more question.
Go right ahead.
Well, two, actually. So the Kansas City, recently, did they, pass this? Because I know that for a while, Councilwoman Jody Justice was working on something similar. I'm not sure if she ever filed the bill.
I don't
they
think
got
it's
hung
been-
up on the actual, like, if they could, the time in jail and the fine. I think that they were caught up on that, and they were also caught up on the mechanism in which it would take them to figure out if a gun was reported stolen within a certain amount of time, or or what. And so I don't know if they finished it. I never checked.
I don't believe they have.
Okay.
A few weeks ago, I don't believe they have. I do think that, that gun legislation has been driven for decades, a couple of decades now, at the state level, and the NRA has been very successful at the state level. I mean, this year, as you probably know, the NRA's chief agenda is to allow campus carry, which would be to allow guns on, preschool campuses, all the way up to college campuses. That is their priority for this year. Our Missouri legislature has been very, welcoming and obliging to that agenda. I think that more and more mayors of big cities across the country have said that, this is really dangerous for this gun culture, and the easy access to guns is really dangerous for our citizens. And, a lot of things do start at the local level. The pushback starts at the local level. And so this isn't the be-all and end-all, but I do think, there are mayors around this country who are considering this, and, a few cities have done it,
Right, so you tapped into a small piece. So how is this not a contradiction on the state level, just in terms of implementing gun laws? Like, will we?
Well,
and I'm
this
sorry, I
is
have to step
about
out.
gun storage,
Okay,
not about, your right to own a gun, or your right to carry a gun, or your right to open carry a gun. This is about gun storage. So it's a little different.
so
We think,
storage is different than.
yeah, right. We think it doesn't. Now, some things
Yeah, I got it.
are worth fighting for. So,
Are we about to vote on this now? Are we voting on this today?
I had,
Cause I have to run.
I have to run too, but I mean,
We won't have
we,
quorum then.
well, I mean, we do have another meeting Tuesday.
Okay.
We have another committee hearing on Tuesday.
Can-
I was gonna, there's no legal opinion about this in relationship to
it's
state?
not about gun storage. I mean, they'll, it remains to be seen if this will be challenged or not. But, it's not specifically prohibited.
do we,
I gotta run. I gotta go grab my kid. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, cause I wanna stay to try to.
Alderman Bosley had a question.
I just saw one typo, since we're not gonna vote on it, but it's typo on line 12, where it says death, injuries, keeping guns away from criminals, and others. Should be an S there.
Others prohibited, yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. Good catch. Okay,
do we, so,
line 12,
We're line, okay.
line 12, page 1. Others prohibited by law, yes. Correct. Good catch, Alderman.
We'll hold it
okay.
and put it on the agenda for next Tuesday.
Okay.
This particular bill.
Tuesday
And then we'll do your
at-
amendments at that time. If there are other thoughts and amendments, you can have them by that time also.
Okay.
What time? Tuesday?
Tonight.
Sorry, I have to run.
But there's no other agenda items. We
Okay.
have
Thank you
our
for
meetings again.
your consideration here.
Thank you.
And your, at your next hearing, will it be the same bill or a new bill?
This same bill.
Yeah, I'll put this in the file.
Nothing else you
Thank
need?
you, that's it.
You wanna hold Those are the,
These are the amendments that she,
one amendment.
I wonder if she's gonna change it, or this, that, I'll just put this in the file.
You know, I wouldn't be opposed to making that a committee sub if you wanted to do that.
Because there's actually some, this is not correct either. Her amendment is not.
Okay.
Because they rushed on it.
Do you know how to make it correct?
Tim.
I will get with
Tim knows how to make it correct. Could we, then we could just have a committee
How are
substitute
you?
for
Committee
Tuesday?
As long as they
Good.
see
It's
it
been a long
24
time
hours in
since I've
advance.
seen you down.
I'll let you
We got
put that
it.
out.
We've been
You got it?
We
Good,
got it.
thank
Well,
you.